If you're over 60, there's a dangerous type of fat building up inside your body right now. And most people have no idea it's there. You can't pinch it, you can't see it in the mirror, but it may be silently damaging your organs every single day. Researchers now call it the most lethal fat in the human body. Scientists from Harvard Medical School recently confirmed that visceral fat, the deep fat wrapped around your organs, releases hundreds of inflammatory and toxic compounds directly into your bloodstream. These substances interfere with blood sugar control, damage blood vessels, disrupt hormones, and dramatically increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. What shocked researchers even more wasn't just how harmful visceral fat is, but how quickly it can be reduced even after the age of 60. In one large clinical study, adults between 60 and 75 years old followed a specific science-backed protocol: no extreme dieting, no exhausting workouts, no dangerous supplements. And yet, in just 30 days, many participants reduced their visceral fat levels by up to 73%. The research team was so stunned by the results that they repeated the measurements 3 separate times, using different imaging methods just to be sure the data was real. This isn't the soft fat under your skin. This is the fat that wraps itself around your liver, pancreas, intestines, and heart, squeezing them, inflaming them, and slowly breaking them down. That's why visceral fat is now linked to heart disease, insulin resistance, high blood pressure, memory decline, chronic inflammation, and accelerated aging after 60. One researcher described it as a metabolic poison factory hidden inside the abdomen. But here's the good news, and this is critical. Unlike other types of body fat, visceral fat responds faster when you send the right signals to your body. In fact, after 60, your body becomes more sensitive to certain metabolic triggers, meaning age can actually work in your favor, not against you. According to findings from Washington University, losing just 5% of visceral fat may increase life expectancy by up to 7 years. Not 7 years of frailty, but 7 more years of mobility, energy, and independence. And what you're about to learn today is not another fad diet, not calorie counting, not a miracle pill. These are evidence-based strategies that work with your nervous system, hormones, digestion, and metabolism. The systems that truly control visceral fat storage after 60. We'll break them down step by step. You'll learn exact foods, exact timing, and exact daily actions that were proven to work in real clinical trials. And here's the most surprising part of all. The single most powerful technique for melting visceral fat in recent studies had nothing to do with food or exercise. In a groundbreaking 2023 study from Europe, participants who used this one method lost 42% more visceral fat than those who didn't, even when both groups ate the same foods and exercised the same amount. Before we begin, let us know in the comments your age and where you're watching from. We read and reply to every single comment. Now let's begin with step number 5. The foundation most people over 60 are getting completely wrong. Step number 5, strategic protein timing for metabolic activation. After the age of 60, your body's relationship with protein changes dramatically. And this is where most people unknowingly sabotage their metabolism. It's not that seniors eat too little protein overall. It's that they eat it at the wrong times in the wrong way, which quietly encourages visceral fat storage. A major study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition revealed something critical. Adults over 60 need 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal to activate muscle protein synthesis, the biological process that maintains muscle and keeps metabolism elevated. Below that threshold, the signal simply doesn't turn on. Why does this matter for visceral fat? Because muscle tissue is metabolically expensive. Every single pound of muscle burns around 50 calories per day, even at rest. Visceral fat, by comparison, burns about 2 calories per day. In other words, muscle protects you from visceral fat, but only if you stimulate it correctly. Researchers tracked 387 adults over 60 for 6 months. Both groups consumed the same total daily protein. The difference? One group spread protein evenly across breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The other group ate very little protein early and tried to catch up at dinner. The evenly distributed group lost 23% more visceral fat, despite identical calories and activity levels. The reason is metabolic signaling. Each time you hit that 25-30 gram protein threshold, your body gets a signal to preserve muscle, increase resting metabolic rate, suppress visceral fat storage hormones. But if you miss that signal early in the day, your metabolism stays sluggish for hours. Morning protein is especially critical after 60. When you wake up, your body has been fasting overnight. Cortisol, the stress hormone, is naturally elevated, and high cortisol strongly promotes visceral fat storage unless it's counterbalanced. Protein is the most effective counterbalance. That's why starting your day with toast, cereal, or fruit alone is one of the worst mistakes seniors make. Instead, the research shows the ideal first meal should deliver at least 25 grams of protein within 1 hour of waking. The most effective options include eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, a quality protein smoothie, or a combination of plant proteins like lentils and quinoa. Lunch and dinner should follow the same rule. Protein first, vegetables second, carbohydrates last. Dr. Douglas Patton Jones from the University of Texas found that this protein timing strategy increased resting metabolic rate by 14% in adults over 60. That means you burn more calories even while sitting, reading, or watching TV. Preparation is key. Successful participants planned protein in advance, cooking chicken or fish in batches, keeping hard-boiled eggs ready, preparing beans or lentils ahead of time. The biggest mistake seniors made was this pattern: carbohydrate-heavy breakfast, light salad for lunch, very large protein dinner. This delays metabolic activation until late evening, when your body is least responsive, and actually promotes visceral fat accumulation throughout the day. Fixing protein timing alone creates a powerful metabolic shift, but it's just the beginning, because the next strategy shocked researchers even more. In fact, step number 4 activates a type of fat in your body that burns visceral fat for fuel. Step number 4, temperature manipulation to activate brown fat. Your body contains 2 very different types of fat, and understanding this difference changes everything about visceral fat loss after 60. The first type is white fat. This is the fat that stores energy. Most visceral fat belongs to this category. The second type is brown fat, and this is where the magic happens. Brown fat doesn't store calories. It burns calories to generate heat. For years, scientists believed brown fat became inactive with age, but a groundbreaking study from Maastricht University proved that this simply isn't true. Researchers found that adults over 60 still possess dormant brown fat, and it can be reactivated with the right stimulus. In the study, participants aged 60 to 75 were exposed to mild cold temperatures for just 2 hours per day. Not ice baths, not freezing conditions. Just mild, controlled, cool exposure. The protocol was simple. Home temperature lowered to 19 degrees, light indoor clothing. 2 hours in the evening. After just 4 weeks, brown fat activity increased by 45%, and visceral fat decreased by 19%, without any dietary changes. Why does this work? Cold exposure forces brown fat to generate heat. To do that, it pulls energy directly from visceral fat stores, which are more metabolically active and easier to access than fat under the skin. As we age, our brown fat becomes underused, not absent, and inactivity leads to visceral fat accumulation around vital organs. The study proved that even people over 70 could reactivate brown fat and accelerate visceral fat loss. Another method delivered equally impressive results. Participants ended their hot showers with 30 seconds of cool water. Not cold enough to shock, just cool enough to feel uncomfortable. This short exposure activated brown fat for up to 4 hours afterward. When researchers combined evening cooler room temperatures, cool shower finishes, Participants lost 31% more visceral fat than those using only one method. Timing matters. The most effective window was between 6 and 8 p.m., when your body's core temperature naturally begins to drop. This aligns with your circadian rhythm and amplifies fat burning during sleep. Researchers also tested a simpler strategy: drinking a glass of cold water every 2 hours. Your body must expend energy to warm the water to body temperature. Japanese metabolic studies found this alone burned an additional 80 to 100 calories per day, without effort. The key to success is gradual adaptation. Participants who started with just 10-15 minutes of cooler temperatures and slowly increased exposure over 2 weeks achieved better results than those who jumped in too aggressively. Aggressive cold triggers stress hormones, and stress increases visceral fat. Controlled mild cold does the opposite. By the end of the second week, most participants reported feeling warmer naturally, less sensitivity to cold, improved sleep quality, faster waist reduction. Now we're moving into even more powerful territory, because step number 3 doesn't just change how your body burns fat, it changes when your body is allowed to burn it. Step number 3, time-restricted eating aligned with your metabolic clock. After the age of 60, when you eat often matters more than what you eat, especially when it comes to visceral fat. This completely challenges decades of advice given to seniors. A landmark study from the Salk Institute followed adults aged 60 to 78 and uncovered something remarkable. Participants who limited their eating to a specific daily time window lost 47% more visceral fat than those eating the same foods and calories spread throughout the day. No calorie counting, no food elimination. Just timing. This is not extreme intermittent fasting. It's a metabolic alignment strategy that works with your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that controls hormones, digestion, and fat storage. As we age, that clock becomes more sensitive. The study showed the optimal eating window for seniors is 8 to 10 hours, ideally between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Why does this work? Because when you stop eating early enough, your body enters a prolonged overnight repair state. During this time, insulin drops, growth hormone rises, and your metabolism shifts from burning sugar to burning fat. And when your body burns fat overnight, it targets visceral fat first, because it's metabolically accessible and hormonally active. Dr. Sachin Panda, one of the lead researchers, discovered that this pattern activates autophagy, your body's cellular cleanup process. Autophagy doesn't just recycle damaged cells. It specifically targets dysfunctional fat cells surrounding vital organs. Participants didn't change what they ate, they simply compressed their usual meals into this window. But there's a critical detail for people over 60. Starting too aggressively can backfire. Those who jump straight into an 8-hour window experience stress responses that actually increased visceral fat. The successful approach was gradual. Week 1, 12-hour eating window. Each week, reduce by 30 minutes. Target 10-hour window. This slow transition prevents cortisol spikes, and cortisol is one of the strongest drivers of visceral fat storage after 60. Inside the eating window, structure matters. 3 solid meals work better than constant snacking. Snacking keeps insulin elevated, which blocks fat burning. The first meal should be substantial, rich in protein and healthy fats to protect muscle mass. The last meal should end at least 3 hours before bedtime. This timing is critical. Growth hormone, one of the most powerful visceral fat-mobilizing hormones, is released during deep sleep, but it only rises when insulin is low. Participants following this pattern showed 34% higher growth hormone levels, faster waist reduction, improved sleep quality. During the fasting window, water, black coffee, and unsweetened tea were allowed, and actually enhanced results by slightly increasing metabolic rate without disrupting fat burning. This strategy alone produced dramatic changes. But the next method builds directly on this by changing what happens inside your gut. Because step number 2 targets visceral fat through your microbiome. And the results shocked researchers. Step number 2. Targeted soluble fiber loading with prebiotics. This is where visceral fat loss after 60 becomes biological, not willpower-based. Scientists at Wake Forest Baptist Medical Center uncovered a finding that completely changed how experts view belly fat in older adults. They discovered that every additional 10 grams of soluble fiber per day was associated with a 3.7% reduction in visceral fat over time. But here's where it gets shocking. When soluble fiber was combined with specific prebiotics, visceral fat loss accelerated dramatically, reaching 8 to 9% reductions in just a few months without weight loss dieting. This study followed 1,100 plus adults over 60, and the mechanism was crystal clear. Soluble fiber works through 3 powerful pathways, all of which become more important with age. Mechanism number 1, insulin control. Soluble fiber forms a gel-like substance in your digestive tract. This slows glucose absorption, preventing sharp insulin spikes. And insulin is one of the strongest signals telling your body to store visceral fat. Stable insulin, unlocked fat burning. Mechanism number 2, gut bacteria reprogramming. Soluble fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, especially butyrate. Butyrate is not just a gut compound, it directly signals visceral fat cells to release stored energy. In the study, participants with higher butyrate levels had 51% less visceral fat, regardless of total body weight. This explains why some older adults stay lean even without dieting. Mechanism number 3, appetite and hormone regulation. Soluble fiber increases GLP-1 and PYY, hormones that reduce cravings, improve insulin sensitivity, protect muscle mass. This combination is rare and essential after 60. The most powerful fiber most people never use. The most effective soluble fiber wasn't oats or beans. It was glucomannan, extracted from konjac root. Just 3 grams before meals reduced visceral fat by 12% in 8 weeks in controlled trials. It works because it expands in the stomach, slows digestion, and dramatically improves gut fermentation. You can find it as a supplement, or naturally in shirataki noodles. Timing is critical. Take it 30 minutes before your largest meal with a full glass of water. Second, most effective option, ground flaxseed. 2 tablespoons daily reduced visceral fat by 9%, but only when freshly ground or pre-ground and refrigerated. Old flax loses its active compounds. The optimal daily protocol. The most successful participants followed this exact structure. Morning, 1 tablespoon ground flax in a protein shake. Lunch, glucomannan before the meal. Dinner, 1 cup of cooked beans. This created 3 metabolic signals per day, forcing the body to burn visceral fat. The prebiotic boost fiber alone isn't enough. Prebiotics amplify results. The strongest performers? Garlic onions, Jerusalem artichokes. Participants who consumed just wheat, Jerusalem artichoke, or 2 cloves of garlic daily saw a 27% increase in fat-burning gut bacteria within 2 weeks. This gut shift doesn't just burn visceral fat. It protects muscle, lowers inflammation, and stabilizes blood sugar. And now we arrive at the most powerful method of all, the one that outperformed diet, exercise, fiber, and fasting. Step number 1, controlled breathing to activate the vagus nerve. This was the breakthrough that forced researchers to rethink everything they believed about fat loss after 60. Because this method worked even when diet and exercise stayed the same. In a large clinical study conducted in Europe, adults aged 60 to 79 practiced a specific breathing technique for just 15 minutes twice per day. No supplements, no calorie restriction, no extra movement. And yet, they lost 42% more visceral fat than the control group. The difference came down to one powerful system most weight loss plans completely ignore: the autonomic nervous system. Why stress is the hidden driver of visceral fat? After 60, your body becomes far more sensitive to stress hormones, especially cortisol. Cortisol has one primary job: store energy around your vital organs for protection. That means high cortisol and not more visceral fat, even if you're eating the same foods you ate in your 40s. This is why so many seniors say, I eat the same, but my belly keeps growing. It's not calories, it's nervous system imbalance. And this is where the vagus nerve comes in. The vagus nerve, your metabolic master switch. The vagus nerve runs from your brain down through your heart, lungs, liver, pancreas, and digestive system. When activated correctly, it lowers cortisol, improves insulin sensitivity, reduces inflammation, signals visceral fat cells to release stored energy. In the study, researchers discovered that diaphragmatic breathing was the fastest and most reliable way to activate the vagus nerve in older adults. The exact breathing protocol used in the study. This is critical. Small details matter. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold the breath for 7 seconds. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 8 seconds. Repeat continuously for 15 minutes. But here's the key detail that made the difference. One hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Only the belly should move. This ensures true diaphragmatic breathing, not shallow chest breathing. Why timing multiplies the effect? Participants who saw the biggest results did the breathing at 2 specific times. Session 1. Immediately after waking. Cortisol is naturally highest in the morning. 15 minutes of breathing reduced cortisol by up to 37%. This shuts off the visceral fat storage signal for the entire day. Session 2. Between 3 hours and 5 p.m. This is when cortisol spikes again. Breathing here prevents afternoon and evening fat storage. This timing alone explained much of the dramatic fat loss. What participants reported after 2 weeks? Most participants said the breathing became automatic. They noticed a deep relaxation within minutes, warmer hands and feet, better digestion, fewer cravings, a visible reduction in waist size, lab markers confirmed, 23% improvement in insulin sensitivity, 31% reduction in inflammatory markers linked to visceral fat. Why this method outperformed everything else? Diet and exercise affect fat indirectly. Breathing affects fat directly by controlling the nervous system that decides whether fat is stored or released. That's why this method worked even on its own. But when combined with the other 4 strategies, the results were extraordinary. Participants using all 5 methods lost an average of 4.2 inches from their waist in 30 days. Scans confirmed the majority of that loss came from dangerous visceral fat, not muscle or water weight. Eliminating visceral fat after 60 isn't about perfection. It's about sending your body the right signals consistently. Start with the breathing technique. It costs nothing, it requires no equipment, and it immediately reduces stress-driven fat storage. Then add 1 strategy per week. Protein timing. Mild cold exposure, time-restricted eating soluble fiber and prebiotics. Your body is not broken. It's responsive, even now. When given the right signals, it can rapidly reduce visceral fat, protect muscle, and restore metabolic health well into later life. Now we want to hear from you. Have you noticed fat shifting to your midsection even though your diet hasn't changed since your 40s? What's been the biggest surprise about how your body has changed after 60? Share your experience in the comments. We read every one. Thanks for watching.